Hey everyone, in this video I am going to teach you how to ink up your intaglio plate. Right here I have done a dry point etching on some plexiglass. So you can see here there are some scratch marks on my plate to create an image. Then I'm going to print it, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. And it's going to look something like this. This is a proof or a practice print, okay? So you can see all the intricate line work here, okay? So what you need to do this is you need a piece of newsprint to put down underneath all of your supplies. You're going to need, and this will be set up at each table, you're going to need some little pieces of board. You're going to need some little squares of newspaper and also some cheesecloth. The ink that we're going to be using is Akua ink, intaglio ink, and the great thing about this ink is it doesn't really dry until it hits the paper. So that is a really nice benefit of it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So it's a really messy process. Your hands are going to get a little bit inky here. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to take the board here. Okay, so you're going to take one of the pieces of the board and you're going to just take out a little bit. You don't need a ton, but a little bit of this ink here. Okay, and you're going to take the ink and you're going to press the ink into the grooves of your plate here, okay? So I had a little bit too much. I'm going to take what's there. So you're just pressing the ink because what's going to happen is the paper is going to go into the grooves that are filled with ink and create your lines, okay? So you need to make sure that you cover the whole paper. And you can see I have a little mistake on the edge here where there's like a little scratch that kind of goes along there. Remember, all lines show up. Okay, so if I don't really clean that out very well, it will show up in my print, okay? So there you go, you got it mostly covered. Then you might even use this again, set that aside, or you can take another one. And what you want to do is sort of squeegee or start to, and I'm rotating this around to have a clean side. You can also wipe it to use it again. But you need to squeegee off the excess ink. And this is a really important step, and the one that most amateurs don't do enough of, okay? Because if you have a lot of excess ink on there, it's going to take a lot more time wiping it off. So this stage is super crucial, making sure you get all the ink off, okay? And this takes practice. The first one's going to take a really long time, but you're going to get a lot better at this, okay? All right, so the next thing, once you've squeegeed quite a bit off, you're going to start by taking a little piece of your newsprint here, and you don't want to crinkle it up and go like this. You want to make sure that you keep it flat and that you use this part of your hand here to clean the plate. If you crinkle it up, what's going to happen is the crinkles are going to go into the recessed areas of the plate and clean the ink out of the line work, and then you won't have such a detailed print. So anyway, so you're going to keep the paper really flat on the surface, and you're going to use this part of your hand to sort of start to buff the ink off. Okay, so if you remember, wherever the ink is going to reside in the areas in which you carved. Okay, and wherever you didn't carve, the glassy part is going to remain the Platone or your white space, okay? So you're gonna just carefully buff. You wanna change this a lot. You don't want the flecks of the paper to get attached to your plate. So you wanna move it around quite a bit, okay? You can kind of put this aside here. The first one that you do is going to be a lot more messy. You may even lift up the plate here. Do some like this. All right. That's actually going pretty well. So a little bit thicker plate than what you're using. I have a nice beveled edge on this. So you can see it's starting to get a little bit more clean as it compared to this one. Okay, so here's what we got so far. It's starting to get pretty good. The details are starting to come through. You can see here. Okay. All right, so at this stage, usually you have to use the newsprint for a much longer time. But at this stage, you could probably pick up your cheesecloth. So you want to really save this till you've done this a lot, because you don't want this to get super dirty, okay? Because they do have to be washed by hand, okay? So you make like a little pad like this, and you sort of just do light little circles, and it's going to really pick up the details in your plate, okay? You can see my mistake, my crack here. You'll have to go through and I'll have to go through and clean that a little bit better so that doesn't show up. All right, so that's pretty good. This didn't get too dirty, so that is about perfect. So I can hold this up for you to see how this should look once you have it fully inked. All right, so you can see there. You can see that the ink is like perfectly in the lines, so that when you run it through the press, the paper will go into the grooves and lift off the ink and create your print. Okay, so those are the steps for doing this. So this is pretty much done. At this point, you need to go wash your hands. My hands are pretty dirty. You need to go wash your hands with Simple Green, and then go handle the paper. You don't want to go handle the paper with a bunch of ink on your hands, because then you're gonna get fingerprints and all kinds of stuff on your nice clean paper. Okay, so you don't want to have that. All right, so I'm going to stop here because the next step requires the press. But this is the whole process for inking your plate. Alrighty.